Hi there, I'm Sam Gedert. Welcome to the Video Book Report. I like to say that I read books so you don't have to. In this episode, we're going to be talking about a book. It's called The Goal. The author is Eliyahu Goldratt. It came out in 1984, and it is a business management book. So as far as who is it's for, who is the best audience, it's anyone who manages people, processes, organizations, anybody that is trying to bring about a greater level of efficiency and effectiveness in their organization or in their team. So a little bit about the author. Eliyahu Goldratt, and he started his career as a physicist. And in that role, he found that a lot of what he learned in physics applied to the systems of business, specifically manufacturing. So what he found about constraints in some of the systems of energy and things of that nature, he found, wow, that actually has an analog in manufacturing. And so he became a management consultant and was very successful at it. This is late 70s, early 80s. As I said, the book came out in 1984. And the thing that I really enjoyed about the books, it details his methodology that's called the theory of constraints, and we'll go into that in a little bit. But what he does is he tells it in the context of a story. So he is actually telling a story with characters and a plot, and there's even a romance, but he's also using it to tease out his theory of constraints. And that theory is both at the same time very simple and very difficult. It's very simple in its presentation, but it's very difficult to implement for a variety of reasons that we'll see. And just real briefly, I want to go through what the theory of constraints is. So essentially, the theory of constraints says that everything is a system. Whether it's manufacturing, whether it is a knowledge work office like a public affairs firm, or everything is a system. And in a system or in a process, something starts at one end and comes out the other, whether that's a car or whether that's a press release. It all goes through a process. And essentially, the theory of constraints is really kind of a different version, a more complex version of the weakest link, so that it's not the system is constrained by the thing that is the slowest or the bottleneck. Again, not a real groundbreaking concept, but he has three components that help make this more practical. So first one is identify the constraint. So figure out what the constraint is in the system. Is it an individual? Is it a piece of machinery? Is it a process? Is it a policy? Is it the lack of a policy that is causing the entire system to be less efficient and less effective? The second is decide how to exploit the constraint. So how can we get around this? Do we need to create a policy that says, hey, when this goes here, that goes there, so that we're not so confused all the time? Do we need to hire somebody? Do we need to buy a new piece of equipment? Whatever it is. And then the third thing, and really the most important, is that we subordinate everything that we do to that above decision, so that it really helps set priorities. So if we've decided like, hey, in order to get again, I'm going to use the example of getting out a press release because that's something that I work with a lot of folks that do. If we've decided that's the thing that we want to improve, and we've figured out what the constraint is, and we've figured out how to get rid of the constraint, then that's how we set our priorities. So that's how we're going to spend our time. That's how we're going to make our phone calls. That's where we're going to spend our time meeting with folks, figuring out how to make sure that we're spending our resources in the most important thing. And again, this isn't really groundbreaking in the sense that we've heard it before. The main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. It's a different version of that. But again, he does an incredible job of telling it through a story, and these characters are people that you can really see in your everyday lives. You're like, oh, I can relate to that guy, or oh, I know somebody just like that woman, and it's really compelling. So I absolutely enjoyed it. If you're not necessarily in the business of business management, but are in the business of management of something, I think it's a great read for you. Overall, I'm going to give it a 4, and there's a couple things about that. Practicality. It can be difficult to implement practically, but only because I've got so much else going on a lot of the times. But when I really sit down and say, okay, what is the constraint? How can I break the constraint? And how do I subordinate all of my other decisions to that. When I actually do it, it works. It's very powerful. It's such an easy read. Again, the story just makes it a really compelling and really engaging. It's easy to pick up and just do a couple pages of it at night if you want. So overall, I give it a 4. Check it out. There's a link in the description of this video. So check it out, and I will see you next time on the Video Book Report. Take care.